Episode of the show, we are sitting down with a man who has lived one hell of a story and is now turning it into an actual movie. Greg Carbonello joins Debbie and me to talk about addiction, recovery, music, all the while messy, unbelievable moments in between. We get into the heavy stuff, sure, but we also laugh a lot because Greg's the kind of guy who can talk rock bottom and still crack a joke that'll make you spit out your coffee. He opens up about the turning points, the soundtrack that kept him going, and why he decided his life needed a screenplay and not just a diary entry. If you've ever struggled, rebuilt, reinvented yourself, or just love a comeback story with heart and humor, this is an episode you don't want to miss. That's coming up right now on It's Another Sunday Podcast. From our studios in Boston, Massachusetts, I'm Gerry DeViller.
And I'm Debbie Catalano of Catalano Creative.
Debbie Catalano is alongside. We want to welcome our listeners from the United States and around the world. It's Another Sunday Podcast. Hello, Debbie.
Hello, Gerry.
I am so sorry.
That's
I had it on mute, and we'll have to. The folks are going to have to listen to the next episode to hear what I just screwed up on. But it's so good to see you.
Nobody will know. Good to see you too.
See, this is what happens when we try to change things, right? We really need to do rehearsals on this stuff. But then it wouldn't be. It's Another Sunday Podcast. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am better than I deserve. Thank you very much. And again, good to see you. It's been an interesting winter. We're actually recording this in March of 26. And as I look out my window, the 300 feet of snow that we had just 2 weeks ago is gone.
Yes,
what a crazy winter it's been. You surviving over there?
Yeah, I was sick for quite a while. I got some sort of respiratory cough, virus, bronchitis, whatever it was, but finally better. And you?
Well, I have been pretty good, thanks. It's getting into that spring season real soon, and what I call fake spring, because it's still kind of chilly out. But the allergies are going to start up, but that's okay. I'm tough.
You are.
Hey, listen, I am so grateful. First, and thank you. The guest we have on today has a remarkable story, and I know you've known him for quite some time here. So thank you for referring him to us, and I'm looking forward to jumping right into it. How about you?
Oh, definitely. Me too. I've wanted him on the podcast for quite some time.
Yeah, me as well, and we're so happy that he's able to join us. His name, of course, is Greg Carbonello, and he is a guy who has lived enough life for three people. He survived it, learned from it. He's now turning it into a movie, which is honestly the most productive thing anyone has ever done with their trauma. His story includes addiction, recovery, music, and a whole lot of grit. Greg, thanks so much. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
I'm excited for this. I want to talk about the heavy stuff, but we're also going to get into some fun, because if you can't laugh, you pass. What's the point of surviving, right? So, but I thought let's rewind the tape a little bit. Before addiction and recovery and the movie deal, or the movie that you're writing, what was it like back then? Paint us a picture of who Greg Carbonello was.
Growing up, like to have fun. I was always hanging around my boys, into sports, video games, athletics, just like to have a lot of fun. And then, I got involved with some substances that, I wish I didn't. And it kind of, stopped all the fun in its tracks. And I was on a pretty bad roller coaster for 20 years. College graduate, Northeastern University, 1997, criminal justice. I've been working in the field 27 years. I just out of my 27th year in February. So, I've been around a while, and just had a lot of things going on, and just here today to, have a little fun, talk about my story and some goals and, things I want to try to get accomplished.
I have to say, when I first met you, I was inspired immediately by your, well, first of all, you're very, transparent about it, but just your positive attitude and the way you come across with your energy. So that's why I thought it'd be great to have you on just to share your story, because I think it's going to help others.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely. When you look back now, did you see, or do you see the early warning signs, or were you like kind of the rest of us, like just ignoring every red flag, like it was some sort of a hobby? Were you able to see that, or as you look back now?
so I think, I always loved chaos as a kid, being involved in just a lot of, stuff that was going on that I wasn't a part of, getting involved parties and just like, pushing the envelope. Not to the point where I was getting in trouble and arrested, but I was always hanging around, the kids that probably, were getting in trouble. And then, it just that escalated pretty quickly, growing up, especially here in Medford, with the partying, high school, into college, and into my professional career. But for me, I think my addiction, started, with the gambling, as a kid. Those football cards. I think I played my first football card at like 10, 11 years old. I was at
Oh,
Suffolk Down 12, placed my first horse bet. It's the action. I love the action, So I think that's where it all started. And, the disease of addiction, whether it's gambling, drinking, smoking, eating, sex, you name it. There's so many things you can be addicted to.
right.
And mine just, escalated into the opiates. And the accident, which I got into, kind of, just fueled it. And the availability to doctors in the early 2000s, with doctor shopping and, doctors that would prescribe you anything. So, once you start getting them, from a doctor and they get you hooked, it's impossible to stop unless you have, professional help.
How old were you when you got in the accident? So it was the accident that actually kind of brought about more of the drug addiction.
Yeah, I mean, I like to party, like, in college, I'd take a few perks just for fun, you know what I mean? A few perks, a few beers, but that's about it. I mean, that was just like on the weekends and the holidays and parties and stuff. It wasn't like a daily thing until, when I got in the accident. I think I got in a couple small ones within like a month span that, got me in there. My back and neck were hurting me. I had to get an MRI, and they showed us some little bald discs. But then I got in a big accident in '03, and I think that's where the trauma really hit me. And the availability of the amount of pills that they were giving out at the time, and I just took complete advantage of it.
Oh, well, so at some point you hit rock bottom, I'm assuming. And what
Absolutely.
and I guess everybody's rock bottom looks different, right? What was your rock bottom? Do you recall? And what was the turning point?
Lucky for me, I was driving home, from the store and must have passed to the middle of the line. And, next thing you know, I got some lights behind me and I'm getting pulled over.
So that was like the reality check in a sense, kind of getting
I
caught.
mean, it was just like that stopped me in my tracks. I've never had that type of incident before. It was always just go, 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 go. There was no boundaries. There was no incidences that put me in check. And, this was the thing. I mean, obviously, there was things at work, struggling, just with, behavior. This was, after COVID, COVID things got bad, but then, after COVID, it just, got worse. And it got to the point in 2023 where if I didn't get stopped, I mean, I probably would have ended up dying.
Wow. So it was like
Well,
a blessing in disguise, really.
I
so
believe so.
Yeah.
so that was basically the moment when you said, "That's it, I'm done," and I've got to change this story.
Yeah,
Now,
I was out of moves, man. If it was a chess game, I was out of moves. There was nothing else I could do. I had to face this for the first time. And, that was the first time I went in treatment, 49. I was in treatment literally 3 days, later, after getting, pulled over and given the opportunity to get help. It wasn't easy, but it was something that I needed to do for myself. I was
so
49 years old. I've been on opiates, 20 years, and it wasn't going to end well.
So 20 years is a long time. Did you have people in your life who picked up on it, or were you good? I know some addicts are very good at hiding and, living a double life. But did you have people in your life who were kind of like, "Hey, Greg, something's not right here"? I mean, I know it takes you and not other people saying it, but I'm just sort of curious. or were you living the charade for a while?
So also, I grew up in a house where my brother, was a heroin addict, and he passed
Ah,
away of an overdose in 2015. And I've seen a lot of friends that have passed away, kids that I grew up with, friends that I, went to school with, friends that I hung out with, that have died because of drugs. And I always was able to obviously hold it down, keep a job. Like I kept my job, I kept my career, I never got in trouble. I mean, obviously, I was living a double life in a sense where I was working full time, getting my pay stub, and I was just using my pay stub, to, support my habit. It was a very expensive habit, when the doctors have stopped prescribing you medication, and you got to get them to satisfy, your addiction, because if not, you're going to go into withdrawal. I mean, that's just torture. That's not a way to live, and it was complete misery.
yes, of course.
I had a friend who unfortunately didn't wasn't as as fortunate as you, who was addicted to cocaine and heroin and alcohol and the entire thing, but and was in and out of recovery quite a few times. And I remember her telling me that recovery was like character building for her at the time. Um, I remember what her first days and weeks and months were like. What was it like the first few days or weeks of recovery for you?
Yeah. For me, honestly, it was like the weight of the world was off my shoulders because I was no longer hiding this. I was hiding, this addiction and this double life, like I said, for 20 years. And I had never gone into treatment before. I had never tried treatment before. So for me, I just, had an open mind. I knew that, the gig was up. And if I didn't, turn my life around, it was just going to be, that I was going to lose my job. I was going to lose my career. I was going to lose my family, my friend. Like things were getting to the point where I needed to go left or right. And I made that decision, first time I'm going at it full force because I'm not going to be able to go bounce in and out of this place. I got to, make the determination that this is what I want to do. And I'm going to give it everything I got, and which I did. And, God willing, I've been, sober. It's going to be 3 years, July 8th. And I never had, 30 days, growing up. I was always on something. So it's a
Congratulations
miracle.
on that. Yeah,
Yes,
Thank you. I
yes,
absolutely.
mean,
definitely. Um, yeah, and that's it's as they say, right? One day at a time, and here it is. It's 3 years for you. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Congratulations. Was there anybody or anything that kind of kept you grounded, or it continues to keep you grounded, or
yeah,
going through
well, I
recovery?
mean, since I got out of treatment, like literally life, like they say, when you're in recovery, if you do the right thing, like you're gonna get everything back. Like, friends, I got a beautiful girlfriend that I've been with, over 2.5 years. And, the people that I've met, I've done other podcasts, I've done shows, I've, met crazy people, like contacts, all because, I turned my life around, It just seems like the hard work is starting to pay off, which is, a blessing.
No, that's great. That's great. Um, did did your idea of recovery change as you went through it? I mean, everyone starts out thinking it's like one thing and then realizes, oh, it's really this. Did you experience that at all, or
So for me, honestly, I had no idea what I was in for because I had never
right?
been in treatment before, and I didn't know anybody, friend wise, that been in and out of treatment. So when I got there, like I had no idea. Like I turned my phone over. It was the best feeling. I didn't have to worry about people calling, people looking for me. I was there to focus on myself. And for me, like I didn't know what I was in for. I was detoxing from some serious drugs. In the first day or two, like I was waiting for all this sickness to kick in because I had heard horror stories and I'd seen movies, like Train Spotting, when the guy's detoxing from heroin, he's sitting in a room in a mattress and a bucket, and he's just puking and shitting himself. For me, I had no idea what I was in for. So, when I didn't sleep the first, 2 days, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, that was like the first sign of my withdrawals. And the people kept saying, I'm gonna get sick and I'm gonna be pain, this, that, and the other thing. But for me, it never got to that point. It was just a lack of sleep. I probably didn't sleep more than 2 hours the first 14 days I was there at a time.
Oh,
It was just a complete nightmare. But luckily that I was in a location, a facility where I was able to focus on that, because I wouldn't have been able to do that from home. How would I be able to go to work, try
right.
to get off, sleep an hour a night? Like, I needed to be in that place, and my higher power put me in that place, to turn my life around. That's why I'm here today, why I'm here to share my story. And I think by doing that, like on podcasts and doing events and recovery, that's the way I can spread my message on. It can happen to anybody. Look at me, college graduate. Like, I'm not homeless. I'm not, I never got in trouble. I'm a white collar kid, grew up in Medford, good family, and I got hooked on pills. I mean, it can happen to anybody. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, you're not the picture that, when people portray that or the stereotype at all. So, and I think that is helpful for you to try to
Yeah.
get that message out. If somebody's in a really deep, dark place and they really, really are struggling and want to get to where you are, I mean, yours was sort of divine intervention of getting, pulled over. But what would you tell them? Anybody who's listening now, like what would you say is almost like the first step?
You got to surrender to, if you have an addiction and you're not full in 100%, 24/7, 365, no days off. I just know for my story, it's all in, because you can't half-ass it,
Hmm.
because especially when you're having an addiction like the one that wants to kill me and put me in the ground, opiates. Like, I can never use another opiate again in my life, because I know if I do, it's game over and that's it. Like, there's no
Yeah.
going back. So it's a mindset, it's hard work, there's a lot of drive, there's a lot of determination and a lot of positivity. There's just a lot for my story. And if you can put in effort, like what I tell people, like, if you can put the effort into your recovery, like you did to get your drugs, or the money you like, you know how much time and effort it takes to go call someone, to meet someone, have someone come by. It's like, it's so much energy, it's draining. Like, if you can spin that into a positive and put it into your recovery, to me, how can you fail? You know?
Ah, that's a
That's
good
great.
point. It's like its own job. So you're right. If you can put that same energy into getting there, you can do it to getting out. That's true.
That's
Good
how I
point.
look at it, And it obviously, you got to build a network. For me, I have to attend recovery meetings. I have to be involved. I have to go back to Liberty Bay where I was in recovery. Did my 28-day stay. Like, I just went back in January with my girlfriend. I spoke there. I've spoken there in the past. Like, for me, like, I'm involved in my recovery every day, every opportunity. If someone calls me, they ask me to speak, I show up. I attend meetings every week. It's like I put in the work every
Yeah.
day, every day, every day, every day.
And that was sort of what my next question was going to be, or my next comment was, there are folks that think once you're out of your 28-day or however many days you are in a program, that's it. It's like, okay, I'm recovered and I can just go on and just, that was a part of my life I can forget about. But you can't, like you said, you've got to, it's probably some sort of work every single day for probably the rest of your life, I'm guessing.
Absolutely, the rest of my life. Like, in treatment and in recovery, like, I don't medical assisted treatment is always offered. Like, some people struggle. You know how people go in and out of detoxes, in and out of programs. I've been struggling with addiction. They can't get it. Like, if you need to be on medical assisted treatment, I have no problem with it. You know what I mean? If that's going to keep you from dying, if you need to be on Suboxone or methadone, or some sort of maintenance like that, you do what you need to do. It's, if that's going to keep you alive and keep you from not dying and not getting in trouble, everybody's story takes constant work every single day.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's it's amazing. The programs that they have out there today are so helpful. And I've known several people now that have been successful with their programs, and they tell me it's a fight every day. And sometimes they tell me they still struggle, even years later. That they think about it, or they might get that slight urge or something like that, but they know they can pick up the phone or they go to a meeting. So, and that's what sounds like what you do. So that's amazing.
Huge. Meetings are huge. If you gotta do something like me, music therapy. I talked about that. We're gonna go into that too. Like music therapy, you gotta have something that is good for your brain, that puts you in a good space. Like I go to the gym every morning, 6 a.m. Like even an hour on the treadmill to get my brain going, to get those endorphins going. Just to feel good. Just to get up and get in a routine. Routine is huge, absolutely huge. You gotta do everything you can to stay ahead of this, because if you don't, it's just a silent killer.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, of
right,
course.
yeah. And what a perfect segue into the next section of our program here, being music as a lifeline. When did music stop being background noise and start being something that actually kept you going?
Actually, in detox, which is crazy because I used to love music growing up. I'd gone to concerts my whole life. In college, was always into music, and we're gonna get into obviously my two favorite bands, Dave Matthews and U2, because that's part of my story. Music therapy is so huge in my life. Like I have music on, pretty much 24/7 now. Whether it's in an AirPod, whether it's on in my Alexa or in my car, it's like constant. And for me, like when I was in active addiction, like my only focus was being high. I didn't give a fuck about anything else. You know what I mean? I cared
Yeah.
about my
Yeah.
job. Obviously, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. I'm being the best person I can be. But after that, all I cared about is just, getting high and probably sitting at home by myself because I couldn't be involved in a relationship, a codependent relationship. I wasn't going to be able to get over on anybody. So, like I said, all I cared about was being high. But music literally helped turn my life around, continues to turn my life around, and is a huge inspiration in my life.
You mentioned a couple of artists. Was it like a certain song that you said like, wow, this artist just read my diary? I mean, was it how did that happen?
So, a quick story, like when I was in treatment, like we had a gym down on the first floor. And when you're in the rehab I was in, like we didn't have radios, we didn't have things to, listen to except for those like mute the waves, like the sounds of the beach, like it tried to help calm your nerves, like a sleep device.
Yeah.
So that's all we had. Like I had told you, the first 2 weeks, I wasn't sleeping, and I'm just like lying in bed and I'm in my own room because it's right after the 4th of July holiday, and the detox was pretty empty, luckily for me, so I'm just like crawling the walls. I can't sleep, and I got so much of this like energy that I just need to get rid of. So I went down to the gym on the first floor, and they had a bike, they had some weights, they had a machine, couple machines, and there was a Vizio TV with YouTube. And for some reason, I was always, like I said, I was a huge U2 fan. I've been a U2 fan since I was a kid. Dave Matthews, like I got into Dave Matthews huge when I was in college, and I just needed some music to, because I was going to exercise, and I'm on YouTube, and all of a sudden I came across U2 Elevation 2001 Boston. I was like, fuck, I was at that show. And I'm sitting there watching YouTube, and I'm like, fuck, I was at this show. So I started watching the concert from Boston. It brought back all these good memories, and I'm thinking about all these positives. This is all stuff that happened in '01 before I'm, hooked on the pills, and I'm having a positive experience, and I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to think better. So that kind of just got the ball rolling for my story, with the music, because that was now something that I could use as a positive in my, while I'm trying to battle, my demons in treatment. Now I got some music, I got some exercise, and that kind of got me off and running.
Yeah, that makes sense. So those two acts were two bands you already loved and were already into, but just the fact that they hearing them while you were, trying to get there just must have just reminded you of why they are your favorites.
It's crazy because I'm going to tell another quick story about, how, I believe in fate and higher power and all that other stuff. But, so, 2023, U2, the Sphere was opening in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
and they were going to be the first act. And I'm hearing about U2's going to be at the Sphere, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? If I can complete this, that's going to be one of my goals, that I'm going to go to the Sphere and I'm going to see U2. And so when I get out of detox, I'm with my girlfriend, and we hit a couple of Dave Matthews concerts that summer. Like I literally got right into the music. And you asked me about a song, and I'll tell you, my two favorite songs that kind of got me through. One from Dave Matthews, one from U2. It's emotional thinking about it. Music therapy is real. It
Oh,
just even
sure.
think and oh, I gotta take a deep breath here. I'm starting to tear up like a little
No,
kid.
no,
No,
Crying
it's
that's
over
fine.
intense.
It is emotional, and
Yeah,
you're anticipating my question, but and so I was going to ask you if you have a victory song and a cry song because we all do. We all do.
yeah. So um yeah, Dave Matthews is huge in my recovery. And like I've already seen him probably 12 times since I've been out of treatment.
Yeah, no,
Probably.
that's awesome.
And if I started going in 90, 95, 96, if I've gone every single year, I probably would have gone to over 200 shows right now. So I'm a diehard Dave fan. But in treatment, for me, it was Lie in Our Graves, Dave Matthews Band. That
Hmm.
song, about, thinking about life passing me by, and, what could have been. It's just some of those lyrics that really hit me. But U2 and Walk On, like Walk On has kind of been my anthem. That song for me, it was an encore, the concert that I was in '01. And, I need to leave the past behind,
Yes.
and I got to move forward. And move forward is one step at a time, by walking on. So that song for me is huge. And so when I got out of treatment, like I said, I had the U2. I wanted to go see it. So we booked a trip out to go to the Sphere, even though we didn't have tickets because we were going out there for literally the last two shows that were scheduled on Saturday and Sunday in Vegas. March 1st and 2nd, it was going to be the Friday and Saturday night that we were going to be out there. So we had just landed. We were in the Uber. We're heading to the hotel, and then my girlfriend looks on the left. She goes, "Dave Matthews is playing in Las Vegas tomorrow night." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah, at Dolby Theater." I'm like, "Come on." So come to be true, Dave Matthews was scheduled to be in Las Vegas on Friday night. And so we went back to the hotel. We were able to somehow pick up, tickets through Ticketmaster day of the show. And we ended up in our own, it was almost like being in a suite. We had our own waitress. It was like these tickets that they had were like, I don't know if they call them premium or what, but it just like another, bonus. It was another positive. It was just another like blessing that I was able to complete this goal. And that was just the appetizer. U2,
Yeah.
the last show with the Sphere, show 40, it's the last one. We have no tickets, so we go down and show up at the Sphere literally like 3 hours before the show. Like in the old days, you would show up at the Garden with no tickets, so we're waiting in line. And then we're about 25, 30 people deep, and they're saying the show's sold out. The tickets are going on Ticketmaster resale for like 1,500, 2,000. Last show, possible date. There's a possible sighting, from the drummer Larry Mullen Jr. that he's going to play because he took the tour off. So this place was, a lot of buzz, and it's the last show, and we ended up getting tickets for face value for like
Wow,
170.
that's
Wow.
incredible.
Yeah, I also just can't even believe that both of these pivotal bands were playing at the same time that you were in. I mean, that if that wasn't meant to be, I don't know what was, but
Yeah, that's like divine intervention right
oh,
there. Just
yeah,
amazing.
that's powerful actually.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
extremely, extremely
So,
powerful.
to back, I saw my two favorite bands, and I ended up getting a tattoo on my right
Oh,
forearm with
wow.
DMV
Wow.
fades up my sleeve here because I'm always, I always got one thing left up my sleeve that I can always get by on.
I love that.
That's
That's
awesome.
so cool. I love that that happened for you, and just that you had that goal through treat. It seems it really helps to have a goal, other than of course getting through and getting and not. past that demon of addiction, but just that you wanted to get there to Vegas to see them, and you did, and then you had the bonus of seeing Dave Matthews. That's just purely wonderful.
It's incredible. We're talking to Greg Carbonello about addiction and recovery, music, and the movie of his life. You can also watch this episode on YouTube, as we started the YouTube channel. There's a few videos out there, so go over there, look up It's Another Sunday Podcast. You can see that cool tattoo that Greg just showed us. Moving on, not that you have so much of that going on. You got other things going on in your life. You're writing a movie about your life. Tell us. I mean, first of all, that's brave. And what made you decide this belongs on a screen?
So when I was in detox, when we're in these groups, I needed to open up and, and tell some of the things that I've been through and some of the things that I endured. And like at the end of one of the meetings, I had like 3 or 4 people come up to me like, bro, you should be writing a book or a movie. These crazy stories are crazy. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't even think of it. And so like I haven't, I have no movie planned at the moment. Right now, I'm just trying to get my script finished. Like I've literally been working this since 2023. I had a writer that I thought was gonna, put me over the top, but there was a lot of turmoil there. There was a lot of demands for more money, and I needed to walk away. So for me, after that, I've been working, with other writers. I've been working with another writer where I got, another 11 pages. So I do have a finished script that this kid that I went to school with, filed, without my consent in Hollywood, and took my title that I had, given him when I gave him my story. And so, that's a story for another day. But, I've been working with some, pretty important people that are trying to assist me in getting this accomplished. I've had a lot of help from some good people that I've grown up with that have been very supportive, but at the end of the day, I know this is a business. It's very difficult. I'm still looking for some help, to help write this story. I got some meetings set up that I hope are going to be, positive. And, if I can't, use these people, that they're going to be able to help me out, point me in the right direction. So it's just a goal because, one of the good people that helping me out, my buddy Kevin, he said, writing this and doing this, it's also therapy. It's helping me in my recovery. It tells my story, how this can happen to anybody. Like some of the crazy shit that I've seen and I've been through, it's like, stuff of a movie. And I've seen a lot of movies in my life, and there's some pretty shitty stuff out there. And the stuff that I've been through, I think is pretty good on film.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's they don't make them like they used to, right?
That's for sure.
Is there any moment or moments in your life that you absolutely want to have in this film?
Well, a lot of it is going to be true story, most of it is going to be true story. Of course, there's going to be, things added in, to make it, better for, film. But at the end of the day, it's just to tell my story, what's happened to me, what I've dealt with, what I've been able to overcome, what I've been able to do, like all this stuff. Like, I'm going to tell you about, we've been doing a little acting, I'm trying to get my second career going. I've been, like I said, working for 27 years. I'm looking to, do something fun, and live my life and enjoy it. Like I lost out 20 years of my life to addiction. It cost me the ability to get married. It cost me the ability to have children. Like I suffered deeply. And my story, if it can help one person, that's been through, because when I was in active addiction, like, and this is just a quick story that, I'd be on Facebook and I'd be trying to, see if anybody's going through what I'm going through. Is there anybody out there that's like a white collar kid that works a white collar job, that's suffering from addiction? And all I did was scroll. There was no one out there. So now I try to be positive, share my story, post positive things, and maybe my story will help one other person. So like I said, by doing my podcast, by doing my script, I just think that one, it can happen to anybody. 2, you can overcome it. And 3, you can prosper and you can be better and you can show that, this stuff actually works.
Yeah, that's true. And when you say you were scrolling trying to find somebody, it's not that they weren't there. It's just that they were just hiding out. They weren't open about it because there's so much, stigma attached and shame and the whole thing. And I think just that I mean, you've demonstrated in so many ways your courage, and even to continue to put your story out there. You could be like, oh, I got through it, I'm done, I'm moving on, but you haven't. You continue to speak about it, go back to where you went to detox, all that. And I think I'm sure that you putting your story out there, even if people, I'm going to guess that some people even just message you privately and say, "Yeah, that's me," or I know somebody like that, because you've been so open.
Yeah, and
It's
it's like,
amazing. Like,
I'm sorry, like I said, it's a very brave thing to do. Not a lot of people would be want to be that transparent or even talk about it, and that's how um, tons of respect for bringing out the truth. I think it's an extremely important story for folks to hear, and to understand that it you can change, you can recover, and go on excuse me, with your life, and it's amazing. It's been an amazing journey for you.
Also, I want to add too the music element. You've been on couple of other podcasts that were specific to Dave Matthews. I'm not sure if those ones specific to you too. Did you hear from any people who kind of, I mean, there's connection. There's always connection with music. Who said, "Yeah, this Dave Matthews Band helped me get the song, helped me get through something else." I mean, I know I went through it myself because I went through a cancer diagnosis, lymphoma, and went through chemo. And there were a few songs that really got me through. And then when I heard one of them live, it was profound. So I didn't understand. I connect to what you're saying. So did you hear from like many people after doing those podcasts that maybe threw out their own songs or went through a similar situation as you?
so many. Like, I've made so many new contacts through music, especially Dave Matthews from doing the Dave Matthews podcast. Like, when I got out of treatment, like I said, I wasn't a big Facebook guy. I had like 300 friends. I didn't care. But when I did the podcast and started seeing the Dave Matthews Band community, like, it grew exponentially to like, oh, and again, like a couple of thousand, whatever. It's small. It has nothing to do with that. But at the end of the day, it just shows the type of support that's out there. And, when I did the podcast, it was very popular, did very well. I've met a lot of people like from around this area from doing the Dave Matthews concert that have come up. Hey, you Greg Carbonello that did the podcast with Renee. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And I've made friends with Dave Matthews Tribute Band. I went up and I did a show a couple of months ago. And at the end of the show, I went up to Gerry, who's the lead singer, and like, hey, Gerry, I just want you to say, my name's Greg Carbonello, and I just want to let you know, like, your music is huge for me. He's like, Greg Carbonello, of course I know who you are. And it was
Oh,
just
that's
like,
That's great.
cool.
yeah, I mean, not to brag, but like, because I put in the work, I'm very positive. I'm upfront about my recovery. I don't hide it. And so by doing the podcast, it just like in the Dave Matthews field, like I've met a lot of people because of it.
Would you like Dave Matthews to be the soundtrack for your movie? Have him playing the music in your movie? What would that be like?
I'm a big believer in soundtracks and movies, and I love music therapy. So yeah, there's gonna be some Dave Matthews and U2 songs, and
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a supporting character. So, yeah, I kind of figured that. If someone was to play you in the movie, assuming it wouldn't be you, if it wasn't going to be you, what qualities would the person need? And don't worry, if you can say handsome if you want.
I don't know. There's a lot of debate going back between me and my team from 02155 whether I'm Team Wahlberg or Team Affleck. What do you think?
Oh, okay, okay. I've met them both. I don't know that. I don't know.
I'm
I
leaning toward
think
Wahlberg, actually.
I was gonna go with I think Affleck could
Oh,
probably yeah, I think
all
I don't
right.
know
We're
why I just
opposing views here, Gerry.
yes. That's what makes it an interesting podcast.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean they both could do a fantastic job. I just for some reason I see Wahlberg as more of a either a comic type character or like he was in
Well,
when he
which
played the
Wahlberg
cop or
are we
something.
talking about? There's
Yeah,
a
well,
couple
actually,
Wahlbergs. Yes, which one?
I'm thinking of Don Wahlberg of Mark Wahlberg rather.
I'm, I'm talking more Team Wahlberg, where I go to get this accomplished, or we go to Team Affleck, where we get it
Oh, I
accomplished. You
thought
know,
you meant
so
I
somebody
see what you're
blame
saying.
you. Okay.
Okay, okay,
Oh, okay. So if we're getting it accomplished, yeah,
got it.
that maybe that would be Affleck. I don't know because he does
so
pretty
Well,
stretch along. Yeah. Yep.
I would say if I'm going Affleck, I'm going Casey,
Yes.
oh
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
definitely, definitely.
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
if I go Wahlberg, Municipal, Mocky Mock, I don't know, man. I don't know if he can play me.
Yeah.
I was thinking Donnie, but yeah, maybe Casey Affleck though. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to call my boy Sean O and find out. I gotta get this hooked up with Mark Wahlberg. Friend,
We
said he's friend. So let's make the call, Sean O. What's up, brother?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
yeah,
think both people, both teams, let's say families, they support the Boston connection. So I think you got a good shot one way or the other.
and Debbie, you and I have a connection out on the West Coast who is the child of an actor, a very famous actress who does things with music and
That's true. Could
represents.
could be could be a
So
resource.
we could
Yeah.
reach out to our friend Josh, who's probably listening, and maybe there's some some connections
Connections.
that
Yeah, or
he
anybody
could
listening to this out here,
absolutely right. So Ben and Mark and Casey, if you're listening, by all means get in touch with us here at it's another Sunday podcast at gmail.com. Hey, you never know. You never know. We're in 102 countries, and we've got a great follow it listening followers. I don't know what I'm talking about, Debbie. Um, but Greg, so before we wrap up here, and thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your story. When you think about your goals now, creatively, personally rather, spiritually, what do you put at the top of that list?
Spiritually, absolutely, because um, if I'm not grounded and if I'm not working hard every day at my recovery, it all starts with mindset, and believing in good things and karma, sunsets and sunrises, like all good things. Like that's all for me, what gets me through, to start the day, on a good day and end, with a nice sunset. Like I'm looking forward to, being on the beach down in Florida, with my girlfriend for her birthday and just enjoying the beautiful weather and the beach. It's just like, for me, that's what it's all about.
Yes, amen. I agree with that. I love that going through something like that traumatic. It does make you stop and realize all the little things that we kind of take for granted, and how truly important and huge it is if you just stop for a second. So that's very cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the last question I have is, how do you hope that your story impacts someone who might still be struggling?
I was on opiates 20 years. Like I was never going to stop. Like I had a legal prescription. My doctor was feeding me these things every month. Like never thought I was going to get my life together. Never, ever, ever. I just thought if I die, I die. I mean, I didn't want to commit suicide, but I didn't care whether I lived or died. Like I had no goals. I had no stability. Like I just was living, day to day, just for my next one. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I'm telling you, it's just about effort. I know it's addiction and it's a disease and it's a brain, but there's a lot more to it. It's to me, it's all about effort. If you can put in the effort, like I said before, if you put in effort in anything, if you put the effort into just your job or your workout or your relationship, just effort. You just to me, it's all about effort. And I just think if I continue to do what I've been doing one day at a time, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It doesn't need to be fixed. And, keep it simple, stupid.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great advice.
Hmm.
Debbie, any last questions for Greg?
No, just, whatever, I was going to ask whatever message you want to get out there, and you did. So, yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing your story and the energy that you're putting out there. And so, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just like I said about the whole movie thing, it started off, it's just for me, therapy, entertainment. It keeps me going. It's like a goal. It's a side hustle. It gives me something to work on too. So accomplished, but at the end of the day, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'll tell you that. I mean, this is a fun ride right now. I'm enjoying my life. I've lived my worst and now I'm living my best life and I'm just having fun with it.
Love it. Love that.
No, absolutely. And again, congratulations on the 3 years and keep up the great work. I know it's not an easy thing to do. So, and you're an amazing person, and we wish you nothing but the best going forward. And we look forward to going to the movie. Debbie and I want to be invited to the premiere. We'll even dress up.
You never
Dress
know.
up?
You never know. It could be at the Chevalier Theater, right, Debbie?
Oh, hey, I know some people.
There we go. There's a couple connections there.
We know some people here in 02155.
Yeah, yeah. One way or another, we can get it on the screen. But yeah, no, definitely keep putting that message out there, and all that positivity, and it's already circling back, and I it's going to continue to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Greg Carbonello, everyone. Thank you, Greg, so much. And we'd love to have you back again to talk about how things are going and we talk
Any
about
updates?
any updates you have and especially with the movie. So thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, one last thing. If you want to follow me at GCobby1076, you can follow my recovery journey between my girlfriend, my friends, and my story.
Excellent.
Excellent.
We'll have that in the show notes. Folks can look that up and check it out. Thank you again.
Thank you. God bless.